As long as I stand, Babylon lives.
All flames die, Ira, even yours.
Why fight? The dark always wins.
You are nothing. I am fire incarnate. I built worlds. Now I crush them. Run or rot. Makes no difference.
The storm was never gone, only waiting.
I am the end. You cannot stop me.
The winds that swept through the streets of Babylon carried a chill that felt out of place in the usually warm and bustling city. The towering walls stood solemn under a sky heavy with clouds, as if the heavens themselves mourned. Inside the grand palace, the scent of incense filled the air, failing to mask the undeniable presence of death.
Come closer, my child.
I am here. Father, I am with you.
And you, IRA, come closer, my son. My children, I have fought many battles, but none as relentless as time. My body weakens, and my time in this world comes to an end.
No, Father, please, you are strong. You will recover.
Some battles cannot be won, my dear. Babylon must remain strong, even after I am gone. Ira, you have been a protector, a guardian. Now, I ask you to take on a greater role.
My king, I have always served Babylon and will continue to do so. But I am not a king. I am only a man.
No, Ira, you are more than that. I wish for you to take the throne, to lead Babylon into the future.
Father, no, IRA, he is not of royal blood.
Royalty is not just about blood. It is about heart, spirit. Ira has proven himself time and again. I trust him to protect Babylon. There is one more thing I ask of you both.
Anything. Father, we will do as you ask.
I wish for you to come together in marriage.
The dimly lit chamber smelled of incense and aged parchment. Nabonidus lay on a grand yet worn bed, his breath shallow. Bel-Shalti-Nana knelt beside him, her eyes filled with unshed tears. Ira stood at a respectful distance, tension in his posture.
Bel-Shalti-Nana, my daughter, marry Ira for the sake of Babylon.
The words hung in the air. Bel-Shalti-Nana's breath hitched. Grief, uncertainty, and duty warred within her.
Father,
Her voice faltered. She turned to IRA, searching his expression. He too was unprepared, his usual composed demeanor shaken.
I do not wish to impose upon you. But if it is your father's wish, I will honor it.
Bel-Shalti-Nana's eyes welled with tears. She looked at her father, then at Ira, the warrior who had become a beacon of hope for Babylon. Slowly, with trembling fingers, she reached for IRA's hand.
I will honor my father's wish. I will marry you.
Thank you. You have made an old man very happy.
His grip loosened. His breathing grew shallower. Peace, not fear, settled in his gaze.
Ira, take care of my daughter and Babylon. They are both in your hands now.
I swear it. My king, I will protect them with my life.
Nabonidus exhaled his final breath, a faint smile lingering as he slipped into the afterlife. Bel-Shalti-Nana let out a broken sob, clutching her father's lifeless hand. Ira placed a steadying hand on her shoulder, his own grief buried beneath duty. The entire city was draped in mourning. The slow, rhythmic beat of funeral drums echoed through the streets as mourners gathered. The air carried the scent of burning myrrh and frankincense. The royal procession moved solemnly, Nabonidus' body adorned with the symbols of his reign. Bel-Shalti-Nana walked behind the bier, veiled in black, her posture rigid despite the sorrow pressing down on her. Ira marched beside her, his gaze unwavering, his mind already turning toward the future. The people wept for their king, for the end of an era. They whispered of change, of uncertainty, but also of hope. Nabonidus was laid to rest in a grand tomb, its walls etched with his legacy. The final stone was placed, sealing away the past, ushering in a new reign. Bel-Shalti-Nana stood by the massive stone balcony, gazing over Babylon. The city glowed under the moonlight, its towers stretching toward the heavens. Ira approached, his footsteps measured.
The city grieves, but it will endure.
As must we.
They stood in silence. Then slowly Bel-Shalti-Nana turned to Ira. This was their burden now, their destiny intertwined. There was no turning back. The towering structure loomed over the city, its steps worn by time and history. The people of Babylon filled the courtyard below, their voices hushed, their eyes fixed upon the ascending figure of Ira. He climbed the steps with measured steps, draped in the royal robes of Babylon. The crown of his predecessors rested in the hands of the high priest, waiting to be placed upon his head. At his side hung the blaze frost celestial sword, its icy glow a stark contrast to the golden sunlight.
With the passing of King Nabonidus, we now crown Ira, protector of Babylon, as our rightful ruler.
With the death of Nabonidus, Ira was crowned as the new king of Babylon. The people watched in silence, their grief for their former ruler blending with the uncertain hope for their future. The crowd erupted in subdued cheers, a mix of loyalty and hesitation. Their new king had come from the shadows, a warrior turned ruler. Would he lead them to prosperity or ruin?
I swear upon this throne, upon the gods, and upon my own life, I will protect Babylon. I will honor Nabonidus' legacy.
The sky burned crimson as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the city. The walls of Babylon, once battered by war, stood tall, defiant. The Euphrates shimmered like molten gold, reflecting the flickering torchlight of countless celebrations. The streets hummed with music and laughter. Incense and flowers scented the air as people gathered to witness the union of their new king, Ira, and the beloved princess, Bel-Shalti-Nana. The palace was quieter. Within its stone walls, Ira stood before a polished bronze mirror. His reflection bore an expression of resignation. He adjusted the royal circlet on his brow, his robes of deep blue and gold shimmering in the candlelight. At his side, the blaze frost celestial sword hung cold and unyielding, a reminder of the battles he had fought. He took a steady breath. Tonight he would wed a woman who had never been meant to be his. The massive door swung open. The hall beyond glowed with the light of golden candelabras. Petals of lotus and jasmine lay scattered across the floor. Nobles and commoners alike stood in silence, watching as Ira stepped forward, his footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. At the far end, Bel-Shalti-Nana stood waiting, draped in white. Her veil, fine as mist, shimmered in the dim light. Beside her, the high priest stood solemn, ready to bind their fates together. Ira had fought for her, had stood by her through war and ruin, and yet he knew this union would never bring the happiness the people hoped for. Her heart belonged to the gods, and no vow could change that. The high priest's voice echoed through the chamber, invoking the blessings of the divine. He spoke of unity, of love and devotion, but the words felt hollow. As the sacred flame flickered before them, Ira took Bel-Shalti-Nana's hand in his. Her warmth was a painful contrast to the cold distance between them.
I vow to protect you, to stand beside you for as long as I live.
Bel-Shalti-Nana's voice was steady as she spoke her vows. She promised to honor him, to fulfill her duties as wife and queen. But there was no warmth, no passion, just duty. The priests bound their hands with a silk cord, the final act of the ceremony. The people erupted in cheers, their voices carrying through the palace and into the night. To them, this was a moment of triumph. But for Ira, it was bittersweet. This was not a bond of love, but of obligation. And though he had long accepted it, the weight of it still pressed upon his heart. After the ceremony, Babylon rejoiced. Music and laughter filled the palace, and tables overflowed with food and wine. The people toasted their new king and queen, their voices echoing through the halls. But amid the celebration, Bel-Shalti-Nana remained distant. She smiled politely, spoke with measured grace, but her heart was elsewhere. Her gaze drifted to the temple district, where torchlight flickered over the sacred grounds she once called home.
You wish to return to the temple.
I made my vow to my father. I have done my duty. But he never asked me to forsake my place among the gods. My heart belongs to them. IRA, I cannot stay.
Ira's heart clenched, but he had always known this moment would come. He nodded, the weight of understanding settling over him.
Then go. I will not stop you, but you will always have a place here, should you ever return.
Belshalti Nana's lips curled into a small, bittersweet smile. She stepped closer, pressing a gentle kiss to his cheek, an unspoken farewell. Then, without hesitation, she turned and walked toward the palace doors, her white robes flowing like mist. The morning light cast long shadows as she disappeared beyond the threshold. Ira stood motionless, listening as the doors closed behind her. The echoes faded, leaving only silence. The celebration continued around him, but he felt nothing. The weight of Babylon rested on his shoulders, heavier than ever. This was the price of power. He would rule with wisdom. He would protect his people. But he would do so alone. Minasana, the woman he had married, the one he might have loved, had chosen the gods over him. And so as dawn broke over Babylon, King Ira stood alone in the grand hall, carrying the burden of a ruler and the loneliness of a man who had given everything, but was left with nothing.